Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Come on. I've been so lonely, girl. I've been so sad and down. Couldn't understand why haters joked around. I wanted to be free with other creatures like me, and now I got my wish.
Go.
I know that I'm
Welcome, everyone, to another absolutely fantabulous, simply awesome episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a former engineer turned marketing strategist. I like that combination. Who runs Converstion Engineering, a company that helps education entrepreneurs sell more programs without relying on the launch model through his proprietary open everyday system. I think I'm open every day. I don't have any closed days going on. I'm definitely open, but it seems like he's got a whole system about it. So we're going to talk about it. Thrive Loud listeners, get your marketing geek hat on as we dive in deep here with Ross O'Loughlin. Hello, Ross. Welcome to Thrive Loud.
Hello, Lou. Thank you so much. I feel like I might have to hire you to do all my introductions from now on. That was quite the announcement intro. I love it.
Loyal Thrive Loud listeners would know that he is not the first person to have said that. So I think I should just start charging admission or something of that nature, or give them this piece of the recording so that they can run through it. It is my pleasure. It is my honor to have you on, Ross. Ross, let's get the shout outs out of the way here. Thank you, Heather Pierce Campbell, also known as the legal website warrior. She's got a cool podcast too. She's been a guest on this program, and she connected me to Ross and said, you got to get Ross on your show. You'll understand why. And our listeners will in a moment too. So Ross, here's what I love to do. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb, although there's parts of me that kind of want to do that every now and then. But in this particular instance, I want to kind of understand how Converstion Engineering became your gig.
Yeah. So, I come from a long family of engineers. Like my dad's a computer engineer. His dad was a professor of civil engineering in University College Galway in Ireland. My other grandfather was a refrigeration engineer, and I have uncles and cousins out the wazoo, all into engineering. And so I went to school. I had the math brain, and I think I wasn't quite mathematician level, and I wasn't quite smart enough to go for, or applied, I should say, enough to become a doctor. So I just got shunted into the world of engineering via, school guidance counselors and my parents. And I was in university doing engineering for 8-9 years. Did mechanical engineering, worked for Intel. Found out I am not meant to be a mechanical engineer working for a giant multinational corporation. I have too much problems with authority and rigid structure and lack of creativity. But I almost dropped out of university for my bachelor's, but because I had such a bad experience, but was convinced by several, advisors in my life to keep going, finish the degree. And then I decided I was going to go do another engineering degree, but apply my engineering powers for good. And I did civil engineering. With a specialization in environmental water treatment. And I went to Canada to do that. I did a master's and really enjoyed that, and then got a start in an environmental compliance software company. But at that time found myself, as many people do when you get your first job, and you'll just take whatever job you can get with a really long commute. And I was traveling from downtown Montreal to the West Island, which is an hour and a half away, on a bus each way. So it's 2 to 3 hours of a commute. And I was like, are you okay with cursing on this show? I'm a cursor.
Yes, we are. We're totally fucking okay with it.
I said, fuck.
You're Irish too, so you're allowed
exactly.
to. Yes.
We swear like sailors. But I was just fuck my life. What am I doing? My enthusiasm for the job was waning by the day, because it was all of the numbers part of engineering, none of the creativity part. And as I've become older and wiser, there's a creative energy in me that's always kind of been there, but I only really recognized it in my mid to late 20s, that if I don't feed that, I'm just not happy. and engineering in this software compliance company was just not doing it for me. And so I read a book that someone recommended about how to get more time in your day, because I was just sick of coming home in the evenings, like exhausted after like up at 6 a.m. and back home at like 6, and like little to no time or energy for myself. And that book was The 4 Hour Workweek by Mr. Tim Ferriss.
Mr. Ferriss, yes.
Mr. Ferriss. And like so many people, I think, in our space, that was the spark. But for me particularly, like the idea of having the 4 Hour Workweek wasn't like, it's super sexy. I didn't really want to work just 4 hours a week. But what really opened my eyes was how simple he made the concept of online marketing, and how systematic and analytical he is, and how he applied like the scientific method, which is just direct response marketing, I now know.
Yeah.
But the scientific method to like marketing, like you have 2 variations and you run a test. And I'm like, yo, I used to do this in the lab all the time. Like I can do that and make money. I was like totally mind blown, because money making business, I had been steered away from that by my parents and everyone. Like I just thought myself, I wasn't a business person. Right. And then I just went down the marketing rabbit hole. And then I found like another thread throughout my life was I'd always been a writer, right? I didn't identify as a writer, but I was always writing posts on forums, articles for the local newspaper, reviews of video games. Like when I was in university, I was not the guy doing the hard shift down the lab, getting the data, but I was the guy that said, like, listen, you Muppets, give me the paper. None of you can string 2 words together. Let me write the stuff together. Because engineers are just they're not good at writing, right? Typically, well, there's a lot of very talented engineer writers out there, but the average engineer is more.
So it's okay. We don't have to put a blanket over and ruin everybody.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this diatribe, but continue to go. Okay, so you started doing the writing and you started to realize something in between, I'm guessing here. Yes.
Totally. Yeah. I started to write, and I realized that, like, okay, well, I'm able to write. And then in the engineering company, they're like, oh, you're an engineer who can write. And then they just like give me the opportunity to start writing for the website. I was learning about marketing. I quickly learned about copywriting. And then once I discovered the concept of copywriting, it was like, this is the thing, right? Like, let me sink my teeth into this. And very quickly, like, started going down and becoming direct response copywriter, learning about sales pages and launch campaigns. Then I started doing these sorts of things for a lot of people. And became a freelancer, ran an agency, and out of that was born Conversion Engineering. So that's how we kind of went from like engineering to like what I now see as like the systematic deployment of copywriting to make money online. Like that's what I would call most marketing systems. And yeah, like it's the most fun I think I'm allowed to have, standing up in front of a camera. So it's great.
Okay, so let's talk about what you do make money in, and that is this helping education entrepreneurs. I want to clarify and put a quote around that. Yeah. There's many people out here trying to teach people how to do things, and you're helping the people who teach people how to do things, how they can do it better. Correct? Is that kind of what this whole process is all about here at Convergent Engineering?
Yeah. So like education entrepreneurs, a label I would put it there. I don't know many people would be calling themselves. Like there's coaches, which are fit in this bucket. Then there's people who, they don't really call themselves course creators, but they're offering some sort of program. They don't identify as being like a coach, but they've got a membership site, right? Like they have some accumulation of wisdom that they want to share with people, or they're just straight up experts. And like they have like a consultant, and they have like a systematic approach that they've productized. Like all of these people, I kind of, in my mind, see them as very similar because they all have some sort of productized knowledge that they're offering and selling. Either I would say in a do-it-yourself format or in a done-with-you format.
Right.
And when you're in that space, like the launch model is kind of how everyone gets into the world, right? Like,
well, let's. I was just about to get there. Help explain to the listeners the difference between the launch model, what that is, and what you do, which is a little different.
Yeah. So the launch model is kind of the model that I think everyone kind of finds their way into the world of, let's say, info products, courses, coaching with, right? Excuse me. Classic, like Jeff Walker. He's been around the space for decades, tried and true, absolute, like, Mount Rushmore legend of the space. And it's very much a style of marketing that is fantastic to launch a product, right? Like when you're trying to launch a product at first, what you do is you generate a bunch of interested people and you gather them around, you get their attention, and you explain the need for why someone would want a product like you have, right? Like, why would someone want a particular type of solution that solves a problem in a specific way? And once people see, oh, actually, I have that problem, and this seems custom tailored to like solving the problem I'm dealing with, then you introduce your product, which happens to be perfectly matched to solve the problem in that way. And it's very much like a coordinated campaign where you often get many partners, affiliate partners to like promote, to like pre-launch content. Then you host a webinar. And then you have what's known as the cart open, right? Where you're like, okay, well, now that we've done the webinar and I've educated you, I'm actually opening my cart and I'm introducing my product for the first time. If you want to get it, I'm only going to be working, taking customers for like a week, and then I'm hunkering down and I'm going to be working with those customers for the next while. And then you do a very high intensity, like cart open, cart close campaign. You see, I'm closing the cart down. You leverage the scarcity and urgency to the hilt. Say, if you don't buy now, like the train is leaving the station, and then everyone buys, most of them on the last day, and then you kind of stop selling. And now for most people, what they do is they actually go and like create the product with those people, right? Because you've got a bunch of customers, you now create for them, or you have most of the product created, but you're creating the bits and pieces. And it works phenomenally well, right? You got a ton of customers in one go. You take and you learn with them, and you take them on a journey. You learn about what they need, and it's fantastic. And that's how most people get their start. The issue is, what do you do after that? Right? Like most businesses, when they launch a product, they don't shut the store. Like when Apple launches a product, they shut the store and then ramp up the marketing. But that's not how most info products businesses work, and because they just got all the customers, and now they have to switch to marketing or switch to delivering, and then they come back in like 3 to 6 months and they're like, great, so that was awesome, I made a bunch of money, I would like more people to buy my thing, what's next? And a lot of people try to build like these automated funnels, and they don't really understand how they should be working with the biggest asset in their business, which is the list of leads that they generated that didn't convert.
Right.
People kind of just forget about this asset, and they don't have any game plan for how to convert those people apart from basically repeating the exact same process in 6 months' time. And they have no game for what to do in between those two things. And they're kind of stuck. And eventually people just burn out on this model because it's very high intensity, and it just massively lends to a very feast and famine cycle, because you're, overblown with the marketing, and then you're overblown with the delivery, and then you're starving for revenue, so then you overblow with the marketing, and you're just like bouncing back and forth, and it's not very sustainable.
So with that,
yes.
So tell me, and by the way, I'm just going to give a little side note. First time I ever saw the launch model was at a street fair. I was 19 years old, working for my dad. He was selling retail jewelry, and we were at this big street fair, and there was a guy next to us with this cool chamois cloth mop. You guys remember that? Like, there was the incredible, it was almost the ShamWow. It was really actually what it was. And he had a little microphone, like a speaker microphone, and he would sell every 15 minutes. But in that it was actually every 30 minutes, because he took 15 minutes to do his little demonstration, did the demonstration. And then you had to buy within that certain window, and then he stopped. And if anybody walked by, I would like to buy one now. And he goes, no, you have to wait for the next session. Because when you went for the next session, you had to sign something out. Now, what was brilliant was he showed the problem. The problem was, how do you clean up a little mess? He had this little mopped up thing, and he used the mop and did whatever and showed how to clean it without bending down. It was this cool little, very cool moppy thing, which almost, I think, is like the precursor to the Swiffer. Anyway, so what I remembered seeing was, it was not the method of what the product he was selling. It was the problem and that gapped window that you could only get it after he gave that presentation, so you could see it. Otherwise, you couldn't just come up and say, can I take one, or can I buy one? Here's my money. Nope. You had to do it then. And the then was because he got a mailing list or whatever it would be. So there is some value to it, but you're right. I wasn't going back and I wasn't buying another ShamWow. So the question to you is, how do you address the problem to those that want to keep buying every day?
Yeah. So again, well, there's a couple of realities. Like, if we're talking about what being open every day is, I would say it's about having a business where you're open for business every day. You're consistently working with students and clients in some format. And you've got consistent, reliable, like, monthly revenue every month. Like with any business, there's always going to be a little variability, right? Like, maybe you're on 55K this month, and then it's down to like 42 next month, and then it's up to like 46. So you've got like localized peaks and localized troughs, but like, we want you in kind of a predictable band of, you know how much money is going to be coming in typically over the next few months. That's really what I think most people actually want. And there's a few things I think that we have to put in place to get there. Now, it's very counter to what the reality of the launch model is, which is where you have a huge spike in revenue, and then that goes in the bank, and then the new revenue coming in is basically zero, and then the revenue in the bank just chips, and then eventually it gets to a point where you start getting so stressed out that the fear of going broke is what motivates you to go and do another launch, right? That's not what we want. And so to get to a point of having that outcome, like, there's a few things you need in place. One is you do need to have some sort of, I would say, perpetual, ongoing, monthly recurring offer, right? If you win over a whole bunch of new customers, right, most of the time they're buying a product to solve a problem, and they're not buying a product to solve a problem in isolation, right? They're probably buying product because they're trying to get somewhere, and that somewhere isn't just going to be like a thing that's done in 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
But we're kind of all trained in the info space to like, well, you have a 6-week course, and that's what you create, and then you just need to get more people for your 6-week course. And for most folks, if you had the ability to just retain the customers who you have worked very hard to win over, who probably would love to continue working with you, at least a portion of them, like a percentage of all customers think you're the person to continue helping them and would love to keep going. And that's like the first thing that I think most people would be wise to fix. How do you just not lose the customers that you worked so hard to keep, and have other things to offer them or other ways to work with them so that they stick around, right? That's definitely thing number one. Now, thing number two is maybe you don't want that, right? Maybe you're just in a space where you're like, the idea of working and being alongside folks and just isn't appealing. I don't know if that's the case for a lot of folks, but hypothetically, let's say it is. The second thing you need is you certainly need to increase the frequency at which you're marketing, right? That doesn't mean that you start hammering and like doing a launch every month, but the cycle for most folks is they do the launch, they compress all of the sales process into like 2 weeks, and then they kind of abandon the list, or they just like send them stuff to keep them warm. Or if you're like doing the launch model with affiliates, you start mailing about all the affiliate stuff because you have to pay back all the favors that you got for people mailing on your thing. But you're not, like most people in the launch game, as far as I see, are not continuously and perpetually marketing themselves and their core offer as like the solution to the problem, right? Like Apple markets the iPhone every day. the same thing over and over and over again, right? Like there's no end to creating demand. There's no end to trying to find the customers, right? Trying to get them to go to the store and take action. But for most people, they stop post-launch. And the reason for that is they don't really have a mechanism to get people to buy outside of this massive scarcity deadline approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that folks have to solve. What is the mechanism for which you're going to collect sales, or through which you're going to collect sales if someone comes to you and they're interested, right? Like the typical pattern that a lot of people say doesn't work, that lets them conclude that like no one buys outside of launch, is I refer someone to you. I'm not saying you do this, Lou, but this is like, we'll play along with the pattern. I refer someone to you and you're like, oh, you're great. You sound perfect for my ABC program. Here's the sales page. Check it out. And we're kind of conditioned to think, well, the sales page will sell them. If they really want to buy, I send them to the sales page and they will buy. And then we send them to the sales page and then they don't buy. And we go, well, just another tire kicker, right? And like, that's so far from reality. It's just that people don't understand the conversion mechanism or process to convert folks that are coming, where you can't rely on just like this deadline, go check out from the page before the deadline style of selling.
So Ross, the irony of all of this, bringing this all together here, by the way, listeners, how great has this been that we've had a chance to listen to this entire marketing explanation from Ross, who's originally from Ireland, but lives in Montreal. So we've got a French-Canadian city from a guy in Ireland talking to listeners all over the world. This is a total international way of and talking engineering and marketing all together. I love this because what you've actually done is you broke down the engineering method of how we need to convert something, right? You've backtracked into a system that works. And obviously the thing that you're using your program and selling is this method of conversion engineering and helping people to do that. And that was my next question for you here. You're actually the product and offering that you are helping is your offering. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that I'm offering. Is conversion engineering the solution that you bring to the world?
Well, Conversion Engineering is the name of the company.
Right.
How we work with people is we help them build what we would call a conversion engine.
Got it.
Right, which is like the 3-part kind of framework that we have is like, cool, well, how are you getting new flow into your business, new leads? How are you having conversations with them to identify who's qualified and then to convert them? And then what's the product that you have or the products that you can move them into, right? Those are like the 3 areas that you need to have in place for your conversion engine to work. And then we work with folks in a program called the Chamber. That's kind of like the single location that I work with folks, and we help them build their conversion engine inside that in a kind of a done with you way.
Ross, is an entrepreneur something you never thought you would be, and having this really cool bit, give me the beginning of what it started at and to where you are today and how you've grown the business.
Yeah, like I never thought I would have been an entrepreneur, like looking back growing up, but looking back, there were some signs. Like I was continuously like looking for like gigs without any prompting. Like I started a newspaper route when I was a kid. I offered to go around to people's gardens and do some work for them. Like there was little clues. I wasn't super successful at any of that, but I was interested in like going out and like making some money from doing things. Like where I am now, looking back, a lot of my skills I think apply. But it is a long way from where I would like thought I would have been. But it's funny. Someone pointed out to me, like, Ross, what you realize that what you've created is just a never-ending conveyor belt of creative problems for you to solve for your clients, where you get to collaborate with them and be creative. And I'm like, oh yeah, I suppose that is actually what I've created for myself, not intentionally, but like that's what keeps me endlessly fascinated, and it's tons of fun.
Ross, I love asking guests this question. I want to see where this goes. You've been thriving through your career in helping to figure out how to help other people, but also trying to figure out exactly how you can help them best without really knowing what that is, which is kind of why you're here on Thrive Loud, but also why your business is helping other people thrive, which is awesome. Yet we all have those days when we're not quite kicking on all cylinders and we're a little off our game.
Yeah.
Ross Lachlan, he wanted me to stress the out. Share with the listeners, if you could, when you're not thriving, what practice you seek or what individual you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd say there's different levels at which I like would do that check-in. Like, hang on a second, like things are off. What's going on? There's like I get a lot out of physical exercise, but sometimes like I've been very nomadic the last number of years. And when you're kind of nomadic, you're in different environments, your habits go through the grinder. And sometimes it's just like you just need to get that workout in, dude. Like you haven't had a proper sweat, you're not in good like physical cardio condition. Not like I need to run a marathon, but like you haven't really had a proper sweat in like a month or two. Like, can you go and will that fix the thing? If that's the case, like absolutely. Sometimes it's just like, bro, you need to get back to doing your walks outside in the morning, right? Like there's all these little practices that I find if they're in there, like I'm on in a much better headspace, but it can just get a little like sometimes they just slip out and you don't even realize. And it's just hang on, things are off. Like, do I have these normal practices in place? No. Then like try and get those in place. If that doesn't fix it, then there are some folks that I tend to go and like talk to. I got trusted advisors, they've been coaches or mentors. My wife, like I don't know what's going on. Sometimes I just need to like talk to someone to like figure out like a sounding board just to hear my own thoughts and have them reflected back. But usually it's my wife, couple of trusted coaches and advisors. Because usually when I'm in a funk or I'm not thriving, it's because there's something going on in the business journey that's like throwing me off. It's rare that it's some personal life relationship thing. Like that's pretty stable in my life. It's usually some level of, you know, your own emotional baggage that's flaring up because something new has happened that as you've hit a new level or a new devil, and you kind of need to get to the bottom of why.
Let's do the admin part of the show here. I want you to share with the listeners all the places people can find you, learn about conversion engineering, any promos you got coming up in the very near future. This episode is coming out here in November of 2023. It always gets more engagement, though, not from me, but when they hear it from you.
Yeah, awesome. So the best place if you want to find out about us is go to openeveryday.com. Just go to that domain. It'll redirect you to the landing page where you can get a free copy of my book, Open Every Day, which is basically giving you the whole system for how to break free of the launch cycle and start implementing kind of what we're talking about on the show here. It's a digital copy of the book. You'll get that for free. And then you'll get subscribed to my newsletter. Once you opt in, I will start a conversation with you. If you want to talk with me, I will be happy to have a conversation with you too. If you just want to be a lurker and read along for however long and then come back and have a conversation in a few months, that's cool too. But that's where I would send most folks. Get on there, check out the emails. I love writing emails. I read a lot of emails. Email is like my medium of communication that I prefer. It's thinking time, it's marketing, it's education, it's inspiration for me. So yeah, to learn about us, I would just go to openeveryday.com, grab it there. And yeah, you once you register, you'll get access to the rest of the site and you'll find everything else. But that's the best front door to find us.
Ross O'Loughlin, do you want to go down Fun Street here on Thrive Loud?
I do. Fun Street's like my favorite place.
Yeah. So before we do the pub crawl, because you know you're Irish, so I figured we'll be able to do that. Before we do the pub crawl, I want you to share with the listeners what you shared with me is, well, I was going to say one, but really 3 of your all-time favorite movies, or more actually, because I actually maybe that's the main 3 here. Can you share with the listeners what you shared with me? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say the movies that I have watched the most would be Peter Jackson's original Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think it's like work of art. I think they're the best movies ever made. I like watched them when they came out in the cinemas. I got the extended DVDs. I've watched the extended DVDs for I don't know how long or how many times. And then I rewatched them again. There was a good 2, 3, 4 year period where I hadn't seen them and I rewatched them again. And I was just like, oh my God, they stand up like so well. Like they're 20 years old nearly now, I think it is. And it's like they still stand and look phenomenal. And I still cry at the end of them.
I think my order of my favorites is 3, 1, 2. Because obviously Return of the King is just like an epic. I remembered I was exhausted after watching that movie because it was just so unbelievable. And I know the battle in the second one was just incredible, even from a filming point of view. But you need the story, like the origin story, which the first one has more than anything else. So I had heard a story that the most of the cast, specifically the four hobbits, the four part of the, what was it called? What were they? They were the ring,
the fellowship,
the fellowship, the ring, the fellowship, the ring. I heard that those four actors, who all have tattoos, by the way, from that experience, they spent 18 months in New Zealand. And if you think most people film movies, they usually do like 2 months, 3 months, 6 weeks, maybe 3 months if it's really extended. But think how long that is, a part of your life to make that commitment in the movie industry, which obviously was worth it because the movie made billions. But all those three actors specifically, basically became family or brothers by the end of it. So pretty cool stuff, though. It was I love it.
I hold it up as the gold standard for movie making in a lot of senses. Like, I'll contrast it versus like the Star Wars Disney trilogy, right? Like, two trilogies, but the level of quality in the end result is just so not comparable, because like when they were making the Lord of the Rings trilogy, they knew what they wanted to do. They knew the story. It was the same production crew. They shot all of the movies like back to back to back. They were edited and produced and released sequentially as individuals episodes, but like they were all shot in one go with a consistent production theme, versus like the new Disney, like Star Wars, like they had no idea what they were doing movie to movie. There was a new writer, there was a new producer, there was a new director, and like they were all a hot mess. And it's just a testament to when you have a solid, consistent creative process, it makes the end result just so much more valuable, right? It's incredible.
The irony is the thing I remember most of all of those movies was when Peter Jackson accepted the Oscar and he said that he had turned into a hobbit at the end because he had been this hairy mess of a person. And I know you're a pretty fuzzy person. Listeners will see all the artwork or any of the video of this thing. He's got his little beard, he's got his hair in the back. I'm, little man bun going on back there. So you got a little fuzzy. I could see the connection. You and Peter should be hanging out together.
All right. I wish.
So we're gonna do the Speakeasy pub crawl. We're on Fun Street, and now we're gonna go check out all the fun little speakeasies along the way. We're gonna take a little shot of gumption, and I'm gonna ask you questions, and you have all the right answers because all these answers are yours. These are the first things that come to your mind, the things that make you thrive. Ready to explore this little pub crawl, if you would?
Yeah, hit me. Where are we going first?
All right, we're going first with asking you, what's a favorite song of yours or a jam that you've been listening to of late that you really, really like?
Oh, okay. So I'm a massive South Park fan, and I didn't realize, but they actually did a 25th anniversary concert like last year. Like South Park is 25 last year, which is wild. Yeah. And so I rewatched I watched the South Park recent Joining the Pandaverse episode that came out. If you haven't watched it, it's incredible. And then I noticed that the South Park had a concert, and there's one track on there called Gay Fish, which is from an episode like back in early 2000s about Kanye West. I have had it on repeat. It is just unbelievable. I have had since the last week and a half, it has been in my ears. But check out the whole concert. Like the boys are so talented. Like they're not just hilarious. Like they wrote all the music on that concert, and it's unbelievable.
Before we a little sidetrack here, that the guys that wrote South Park also partnered with some other Broadway folks, and they're the ones that did Avenue Q, and they got together, and that's how they created Book of Mormon and some other ones as well. Yeah. So there's some really fun creativity of those guys. Like really brilliant and comically unique, I think would be the right word to say it. Okay. A favorite food that is not a dessert.
Sushi.
Favorite dessert.
Oh, that's a tough one. I like a creme brulee. I will be a good creme brulee. I have a hard time staying away from.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Ooh. An activity you wish you did less of.
checking the internet for stuff that's irrelevant and ultimately a waste of time.
A relatively new activity to you that you've recently tried that you like so much, you want to tell everybody else to try it.
Investing in Bitcoin.
Oh, phenomenal. That's a whole other podcast we're going to do there. If I could snap my fingers, Ross O'Loughlin, and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Oh, like right at this very moment? That's a tough one. Right now it's like November in Montreal, so it's really starting to get cold. I don't think I would move my life. I would probably stay where I am. But if we're talking about going to like a really beautiful,
you just get to go someplace. You guys, it doesn't matter.
You don't go someplace.
You don't have to like pick yourself up and move all your belongings and go there. I'm just saying you could snap your fingers and you could be anywhere. And oh, by the way, you could snap your fingers and come back. But where would you want to go visit?
Probably Tokyo, Japan.
Yeah. Well, you do like sushi, so you'd be in a good place to be there. I like that.
Yes. I'm very curious about what Tokyo, what Japan is like. I've heard so many people say it's incredible, but I have not made it that far around the world yet. The furthest I've been is Australia, which is almost there, but not quite.
Australia would arguably be further, but that's a whole other story. We need a geography lesson for it. Depends which way in the world you're going.
Yeah.
Ross O'Loughlin, the conversion engineer himself here. Hey, thanks for coming on the program. Everybody check out this program, the Open Everyday System at openeveryday.com. And possibly this marketing solution could be something that you can use for your business. So, Ross, thanks for coming on the program today. Great to have you.
Lou, it's been a pleasure, my man. Thanks so much for having me.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
I've been so lonely, girl. I've been so sad and down. Couldn't understand why haters joked around. I wanted to be free with other creatures like me. And now I got my wish. Cause I know that I'm a gay.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.